Oh. Do you get a leg? American chop suey flashback? American chop suey flashback, yes. I just accidentally chopped down on the veal bird leg. Whoopsie. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the 52 Sunday Dinners Project. We are now on week 46. Here's what we're going to be making today. We'll start with a baked bean soup. Then for our main meal, we'll have veal birds and gravy, baked peeled potatoes, creamed canned corn. Then we'll have a pineapple salad. And for dessert, we'll have apple triangles with cream cheese and, of course, coffee. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Ashley. I'm a registered dietitian and I love all things vintage. A few months ago, I came across this cookbook, the 52 Sunday Dinners Cookbook from Women's World Magazine in 1924. They have really interesting recipes, things that I haven't seen before, and they're written in a format that is something that we're not used to seeing today. I thought that this was pretty fascinating and I wanted to try out some of the recipes. And so I decided to kind of just go along each week, try out all of the recipes and bring you along with me as we try them out. If you haven't seen any of the previous menus and you decide to go back, you'll notice that we start in right around week 30. It doesn't start at week 1. The reason for that is that we started this project in August and we wanted to go along with the seasonality of the items as they were meant to be eaten. That means we're going to continue this on through 2024 and finish up at the end of July. Now, if you still want to join us and see how these recipes turn out, go ahead. We're gonna slap an apron on and get into the kitchen. My nanny was here yesterday and she didn't stay long enough to help with dinner, but I will show you her at the end of this after we try everything out. I took a video of her trying the peas and carrot cups. So if you want to meet Nani, see her try those out from last week's dinner, check out the end of the video. But when she came, she brought me the veal for this recipe. She got it from Pelicanos. It's in North Tonawanda in New York. And she got cutlets. She got cutlets instead of the steaks. I don't believe they had the steaks. So we actually get to skip over the pounding and the slicing of the veal here because it's already been done for us in these cutlets. thought we had one there. It's the least ugly one so far. Are these not cooked? No, these are not even close. It's time to try everything. And Tori is here with us today, but she is not on camera today, so we'll get kind of a behind the scenes opinion from her a little bit. But we are going to go ahead and start with the baked bean soup. That is not something I think I've ever heard the words uttered before, baked bean soup. I mean, it might be something you guys are used to. It might be a common thing, but to me it sounds like you asked some little kid, hey, what do you want to eat? And they said something ridiculous like, how about baked bean soup? It just doesn't seem like something that's real to me. But some of these things that I thought have seemed really odd in past menus have been amazing. So let's give this one a try. It looks like ketchup, or as Tori had put it earlier, really cheap barbecue sauce. It's very thick. It's definitely, it was thick before we thickened it with all of that paste in there. It was pretty thick on its own. But thickening it with that flour, definitely, it's very thick. It smells like baked beans. It smells very beany and a little bit, calm down. Oh, it smells a little bit beany and a little bit barbecue-y. Tori hates it. There's a look on her face of absolute disgust at the moment. What is it about it other than everything? Can you give an actual detailed reason or description of what you don't like about it?
I think we just got cheap baked beans.
We got Bush's, I think.
Was it Bush's?
I think so. You think it's the baked bean flavor that you don't like?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you particular about your baked beans?
Not super particularly. They're just extra ketchup-y.
Okay.
Like acidic.
Well, it could be that it was the baked beans. Don't forget we also added a whole pint of tomatoes to this.
I forgot about that.
Yes. So it's like tomato baked bean soup.
Yeah, not my fave.
Okay. You're not a fan?
No.
I don't think it's bad. It's different. I don't want to say bad because for me it's not super unpleasant. It's just not something I would go forward with again unless somebody else served it to me. It's not something I would make and serve to anyone else again. Some of these things I know we have talked about. What the heck have we done by letting some of these recipes go, like that prune pudding and the suet pudding and some of those other things have been incredible, and how could we have let those go by the wayside? I think this one was one of the ones that was okay to go by the wayside. And if this is one of your very favorite things and you have wonderful memories with your family or friends or someone making these, I'm very sorry. I'm glad that it has lived on through you, but I think this one, while not bad, it's not great. It can stay in 1920. You know, I wonder with the Veal Birds, the beef in this, I bet this would pair well together though. Like, I know that they're supposed to be separate courses, but I feel like if this baked bean soup were served over top of beef as the gravy, or the beef were simmered in this, that might actually be pretty tasty. But just on its own. Next up, we have the Veal Birds, and I am not someone who is particularly crafty. Any type of crafts and creative art projects, I tend to absolutely obliterate. So I know we were supposed to add the little legs to this, and if this were a real bird, I think it would not be able to walk very well because my feet look a little wonky. We're going to try this along with the potatoes and the creamed corn. Now, I know on the recipe it said to peel the potatoes, but I bought the very small potatoes, and I felt like if we peeled these to begin with, there really wouldn't be much potato left here. So I kept the skins on. I like skins on my tomatoes. Well, I like skins on my tomatoes too, but I also like skins on my potatoes. So maybe that changes how this recipe was supposed to be eaten. But for me, I think this is great with the skins on. Do you like skins on your tomatoes? Tomatoes? Do you like skins?
Tomato, potato.
Tomato, potato, yeah. Potato, potato. Just shut up. Just shut up.
Are you having a stroke?
I could be. Would you like a veal bird?
Sure.
I don't think I've ever had creamed corn that was homemade before. Any creamed corn I've ever had has always been out of a can, at least as far as I'm aware, as far as I can remember. The Veal Birds I'm pretty excited to eat, and again, if you've watched past videos, you know Tori doesn't eat pork and she only eats local beef. We're not quite sure if this is local, but it said fresh veal. It was from a small town market. So we're going to assume that it's probably local veal, and she is going to go ahead and try it. I really like veal. Everything about this recipe seems very promising. So the dredging, the browning ahead of time, the stuffing, I think I have very high hopes for this one. I'm going to sniff it up a little bit here. I hope I got all of the toothpicks out of there. And in place of the summer savory, we use seasoned breadcrumbs. I think I've explained that before too. I have not found summer savory yet in my shopping trips. I'm still keeping my eye out for it. I also was going to try maybe tarragon. I haven't found that either. So we're using the seasoned breadcrumbs instead of summer savory. It smells really good.
It does smell amazing.
It smells like a lot of herbs, I think, in here. I can smell the onion. I can smell the butter. I can smell the herbs. I can smell the browning on this veal. It's Tori's veal bird just kind of unrolled itself very aggressively over there. What are your thoughts?
I don't know if it's because of this cookbook or if I've had it prepared in a wildly different way, but this is very bland.
Yeah, and we added a lot of seasoning to it. I'm also surprised it does not, yeah, I would agree. The smell of it is a lot more promising than the flavor. It felt like we flavored it a lot. We added a good amount of salt and pepper, seasoned breadcrumbs, onions in the seasoning. So maybe it's the milk. Maybe it was the cooking it in the milk that kind of took some of that flavor out. Maybe the flavor leached into the milk, but you'd think it'd come back in the gravy.
Yeah. I just tasted some of the gravy on its own, and there's not much flavor at all.
Yeah, I'm very surprised, and I'm not sure why. I think I'd like to try this again at some point, but maybe season the flour that we dredged it in a little bit more. The second half of cooking, when I pulled it out expecting that it would be done, it was not. It certainly was not done in the middle. We turned the heat up to 400 to a hot oven and cooked it a little while longer, and by that time it had cooked all the way through. Maybe another 20 minutes, would you say?
About.
Okay. I don't know if the extra cook time had something to do with it. This one is okay. The potato recipe also I found very confusing because it said to baste it with the gravy and then finish cooking it with the veal. But the gravy wasn't made until after the veal was done. So, I mean, I think you saw what we did. We just put it in with the veal after we had uncovered it. So we cooked the veal for the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Cooked the veal for the first 20 minutes covered, slow, in a 300-degree oven. Then we took it out, had those potatoes. We kind of rolled them in all of the drippings that were in the cast iron. We put them in to cook for the rest of the time with the veal. And so I don't know. Well, let's try them together. It's still just okay, I think. Let's try the creamed corn on its own. It smells really good. It smells like sweet corn. And I can't tell if it actually smells a little bit buttery or if my brain is just telling me that it smells rich and buttery because it looks rich and buttery, but it smells wonderful.
It's really good.
Yeah, that didn't disappoint. My battery ran out. We had to put in a new battery. So anyhow, I think I was saying I have several cans of creamed corn here, and I'll continue to use them in recipes that call for creamed corn. But if for some reason I'm going to have creamed corn as its own separate thing, this recipe is really great. It's very creamy. It's very corny. It's sweet. It's rich. It's buttery. It's delicious. This together, all of these ingredients together, reminds me a little bit of, I know that this is beef and not chicken, but it reminds me of a KFC bowl. Next is the palate cleanser salad. And this time it is a fruit salad with pineapple, walnuts, cheese, and whipped cream and mayonnaise on the outside. It seems to be staple ingredients at this time. We've had whipped cream in just about every single menu. We've had mayonnaise in almost every single menu. We've had walnuts in almost every single menu. And we've had cheese in almost every single menu. So they're all the combinations here. It's like all of the staples on one plate here. Let's give it a try. And we used the sweet mayonnaise again for this one. And speaking of mayonnaise, Haley has sent me several recipes from her Fanny Farmer cookbook. And I think, Haley, maybe you sent me 3 different mayonnaise recipes. So we're going to be trying those out here soon to see what we think of them. So thank you so much for sending those over. I'm really excited to give those a try. Let's see how this one tastes. I'm trying to get a little bit of everything in each bite. At first, I thought it was an overwhelming pineapple smell, but then I smell the walnuts and the cheese and the lemon. There's just a lot of competing smells here. It's not bad. I think it kind of reminds me maybe of the soup. It's not the worst, but it's not my favorite. All the flavors are okay on their own, but I don't think I would put them together again. This reminds me a little bit of the start of a deconstructed ambrosia salad or one of those whipped cream jello fruit salads with nuts and cheese in them. Yeah, again, this one is just okay. I definitely prefer the beet salad cleanser from last week over the pineapple, cheese, and walnuts. Last but not least is the apple triangles. They remind me very much of the dough that we made in one of the earlier recipes. It's very crumbly, not very promising, but let's give it a try. Yeah, it's the dough is just falling apart everywhere. It's very hot. It says serve hot. It's very hot. Let's try it with the cream cheese. Now, I'm gonna say just the dough that they made is definitely not my favorite. It's crumbly and sandy and a little too salty. I think this is another one that I would pass on, unfortunately. And I'm not sure, many of you have lots of great suggestions on how to tweak these recipes a little bit. So looking at this apple triangle recipe, what would you have done differently to make this turn out? Because the idea of these apple triangles is wonderful. So what should we have done differently here to make this turn out? So overall with this menu, I think that the idea of the menu was maybe a little more promising than what it translated to as we were eating. It wasn't bad. There was nothing that I thought was really terrible, except maybe the dough for the apple triangles. It just did not work out. Everything else was just okay for me. Now, some of that could be that we needed to season some of the main dishes a little bit better, and maybe the baked beans were just a little bit too much of a departure for what we liked, or maybe it was the type of baked beans we used. Maybe if we would have used a different baked bean, maybe they would have been better, but overall I'd give this one a very neutral 5 out of 10. As far as nutrition on this one, again, maybe a little bit neutral. The baked bean soup, we still use the puree, so we started off with a vegetable rich with the legumes and the tomatoes. We had some fiber in there, so not really a bad start to the meal. Then we have the lean protein with the veal. Add that with a potato, a starch there for some simple carbohydrates for somebody who would have been working afterward. That would have been a really great kind of power up fuel for them to get back outside and doing a lot of work. Same with the corn. We have maybe a more starchy vegetable there and it's been creamed. So you're adding a little bit of fat or maybe a lot of bit of fat to that. Then we move on to our salad. And this is kind of a departure from some of the salads we've had in the last few menus. The last few menus have been very rich in vegetables, which has been very wonderful to me. This one, not as much. We have our starchy potato, our starchy corn, and then our salad is pineapple with mayonnaise and whipped cream and walnuts and cheese. Then our dessert, there's a little bit of fruit in that dessert, but I think this one was a little bit heavier on the starch and the fat, a little bit lower on the protein than what I would like to see in a meal, and a little bit low in the fruits and vegetables than I think what I would like to see in a normal meal. With this menu, there were some good things and there were some things that could have been improved. So I think in addition to the flavor overall of this menu, where I gave it a 5 out of 10, if I had to give a number, I think for nutrition, I'd also give this one a 5 out of 10. Something else that you guys have asked me to start adding into these videos is the cost of these meals. And with this meal, it wasn't too expensive. Most of the things were pretty affordable. The most expensive part, I think pretty obviously, was the veal. And the amount of veal cutlets that we used in this meal cost about $40 total. The combination of that veal with everything else, if we were to estimate this for about 6 people, we're looking at somewhere between $100 and maybe $125, depending on what area you're in and the expense of your groceries at the time. But I think pretty safely between $100 and $125. If you liked what you saw today, please join us next week where we make Duchess soup and I have my first attempt at Boston brown bread. See you then.
Oh,
It's steaming. It's very hot.
I see. I like my little dish.
Yes. Do you want a fork? You're gonna take it just like a little shot? Do you want a fork? Is it too hot?
A little hot.
What do you think of how cute they are?
Doesn't mean you can't make it again.
That's true.
This is so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Mmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Do they taste better or look better or both?
And I think they taste good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like carrot and peas.
Mm-hmm.
And they look.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, presentation
Yes.
is
Mm-hmm.
at least 50% of the whole thing. So
That's true.
you could slap something on and
Do you think you and I go together like peas and carrots or like 2 peas in a pod?
or 2 peas in a pod. 2 peas in a pod.
Do you remember ever making anything like those or your mom ever making things like that?
No, what I remember making the one time was Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had peas.
Mm-hmm.
But then how did I make them? I served them in the shape of a heart. And I can't
Aw.
remember what I had going around the outside now. Yeah.
Was it red peppers? Like a red?
Yeah, it was something. It was red. I mean, I remember doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I recently came across that recipe,
Mm-hmm.
which I have to look. But anyway, you know, I used to do those things.
Yeah.
I wasn't as lazy as I am now.
Did you put your peas in a mold or did you just place each one individually in the
I
shape of a
placed
pea?
them individually.
Oh my.
You know,
That was a labor of love,
I just did
literally.
them. And then I used to make cookies, and they were the place settings. And I wrote everybody's name on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do, like, for Thanksgiving, I'd have a turkey. Christmas, I had something else. But I used to do that all the time for the holidays. I mean, memories are just what, that's what you live with, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But they become very important. I mean, you may not be at that stage yet, but they're important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's what you have in the end.